everybody. Welcome to the season 3 finale of the Piledriver podcast. I am one of your hosts, Daniel, joined by my other two hosts.
It's Berman.
Hey, Chris.
So this week is the craziest week, or one of the craziest weeks of the year for pro wrestling, as it is All In week. However, we have some stuff to talk about. Some bad news. 2 wrestling souls have passed away this week. Terry Funk and Bray Wyatt. The real name, Windham Rotunda. Now, I gotta say, Terry Funk, well, I'll just say this about Terry Funk first. So, Terry Funk passed away at the age of 79, and he died due to dementia. So, Terry Funk, I will say this. Obviously, none of us here really grew up with Terry Funk all that much, except I have seen multiple Terry Funk matches. I have seen multiple Terry Funk promos. I have seen all that stuff. I know who Terry Funk is. I know what Terry Funk is capable of. And I know the legacy Terry Funk carries. A man who wrestled all the way back to the 60s. And then in the 70s, he was the NWA champion, one of the biggest baby faces in all of wrestling. Then in the 80s, he had insane matches with the likes of Ric Flair. His I Quit match with Ric Flair is one of the most iconic of his career. And then the exploding death match moment Mox and Eddie tried to do at Revolution 2021 but failed to do, that was a Terry Funk moment in the past. When ECW in the 90s happened, he was one of the OGs that really paved the way for ECW. His barbed wire match with Sabu is another one of those big matches. He reinvented himself as the hardcore legend in the 90s, being able to adapt with the times. And then he even made appearances in WWF as Chainsaw Charlie. So he even wrestled in the 2000s. He was a part of ECW One Night Stand 2006 in that awesome hardcore mixed tag match. And he finally retired by the time it hit the early 2010s. One of the longest careers in pro wrestling history. Basically gave his whole life to wrestling. And if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have had the Mick Foleys, the CM Punks, the John Moxleys, the Eddie Kingstons. This dude paved the way for many. So, I will say this. I think it's a blessing that he made it all the way to 79. And yeah, that's all I could truly say. Rest in peace, Funker. That is all I will leave it at for Terry Funk.
Yeah, it's so sad too because I remember Terry Funk in a lot of different things, and it's sad, and it's a good thing too that it definitely gives the same thing Danny said. It's blessed that he lived until 79, so that it's a good age for him that he at least experienced the world before, not as an early death or anything, but as a full life pretty much. So it's good for him. It's a definitely good buzz, you know. Rip in peace, rip for Terry Funk, who is a great guy. Fun matches I would love to watch. Crazy matches too. So it sucks to see him go away.
Same here. Honestly, it's quite sad, but at least he got to experience the best of his life. And the guy was a downright wrestler, from what Daniel was telling me. I'm not too familiar with him, to be quite honest, but later down the road I'll probably give some of his matches a watch. But he's very influential to many of my favorite guys. So rest in peace, Terry Funk.
Now, the second individual. This one didn't get to live a full life. This one didn't really get to have a full career of world championships or being the number one guy in a certain promotion. He didn't get that. And this man has had some health issues throughout the year. He went away in March due to health issues, and most people, including myself, thought it was a hoax, and he simply wanted to get away from Vince McMahon due to their history with one another. However, due to COVID, due to the health issues, he suffered a heart attack and passed away. And that man is Windham Rotunda, also known as Bray Wyatt. Passed away at the age of 36. Yeah. This one really surprised the hell out of me. I can't deny it. It's really hard to kind of gather my thoughts on this. It's like, what do I even say here? Like, this is, in my opinion, one of the craziest deaths in the wrestling world I've been alive to kind of, see. It sucks. It really sucks, man. Especially when just last week he was cleared to compete, apparently. He was set to return. And yeah, that's not happening anymore, obviously. So I know there were millions out here that loved Bray Wyatt, that loved his creative mind. From the Eater of Worlds to the Firefly Funhouse and being the Fiend. Despite how many times he won or lost throughout his career, he was able to keep that good faith with the fans throughout all the years. When he lost to Cena, when he lost to Taker, when he lost to Roman, when he lost to Orton, after losing to each and every one of those guys, of course, his momentum would take a hit from it. But the fans always had him in mind, and they never gave up on the guy. So, with that being said, him just returning last year, having one of the biggest returns in recent memory, it's just like, wow, man. He won multiple world titles. He's had a Mania catalog against guys like Cena, Taker, Orton. And even then, people thought he could have done more for his career, but that's a separate story. What is the story is that he was a father, he was a husband, and now that family is going to have to carry on without him. And that's really the big tragedy of all. He was a friend of many in the industry. And, like I said, he had his own family. So to not make the mood feel all sorrow here, I was alive to witness Bray's entire WWE career. And I will say one thing. If I have one favorite match, that one standout, it is that 2020 Royal Rumble strap match against Daniel Bryan. I have never seen a strap match I can call good, let alone phenomenal. But Bray and Daniel did that job. And I'll always look at that match with fond memories, man. Oh, that voice crack right there. Well, rest in peace, Windham Rotunda. That is what I can safely say. Now, I have always had my controversial takes on Bray, but I have always respected the creative mind of him, and I knew the talent he's always been capable of. And we even did a Who Is Better episode of Bray in the past, not to get too promotional here, but in the one episode he was a part of, he won. And why did he win? Because I know what Bray is capable of. So yeah, I'm just going to leave it on this note, man. Rest in peace, and I sincerely mean it. Rest in peace.
Yeah, this was sad because I loved Bray Wyatt since I seen him on like NXT on back in the day. He had me hooked because of how his character fit and everything. And Windham, was, and I seen him always on the Instagram. I would just look around a little bit, and he's always looks like the kindest dude talking to fans and everything. And it's so sad to see this man at 36 die because of COVID, and because that COVID causes him heart problems. It is painful to see so many. It's so many bad. It's so many things that he could have done in his life before he went away that could have been so big. There's so many matches he could probably participated in to use, but he can't now because of Bray Wyatt now. So, and it's sad too to see that too. But I remember so many matches from Bray Wyatt. My favorite is that trap match. I was a big fan. I was loved when it was the Bray Wyatt family versus the Shield or versus any other type of team. They had a lot of fun too. It's always fun to remember Bray Wyatt, how his character is my favorite character, the Fiend, the best character in WWE. From so Probably one of my favorites of all time until the Undertaker. But it's so good, and I always miss it. And now I'm gonna miss it a lot more because you're not gonna see that Fiend anymore. Only if you watch it back. So it's sad to see it, but I think he did provide everyone with a lot of fun, a lot of great moments, and a lot of funny moments from his Firefly Funhouse days. So for Windham and for his family, I will say condolences to everything. It's sad to see that he died at this age too. Rip in peace, Bray Wyatt, Windham, Rotunda.
And yeah, it just caught me off guard because I remember I was just watching like funny enough just some WWE matches, of NXT, and then all of a sudden I kind of hear my dad is like, "Hey, Chris," I'm like, "Yeah," and it's just like, "Did you know Bray Wyatt like passed away?" And I was like, "Wait, you must be mistaken because like he was a very young guy," and I'm like, I thought it was like somebody else, but it just kind of caught me off guard, and it really sucks to see because the guy barely started a career. I mean, he was big and he could have done a lot more things. So I just really feel bad for his family and his kids. And thankfully, WWE is doing the best they can right now. They're gonna give him all the prestigious so at least his family's taken care of financially. But that must really suck for his daughters and his wife. So sincerely, it's so sad to see her. So rest in peace.
Yeah, I do agree. Now, I will say this, people. I think it's a great thing that WWE are doing the tribute show tonight. And I hope they make an absolutely great tribute show tonight. Now, let's hop in and talk about the other wrestling news that has happened. Now, we got the depressing stuff out of the way, I guess you can simply say. Really just bad news for the wrestling world this week. Heading into All In. Very unfortunate. But, yeah, so this episode is mainly an AEW episode because we will be talking about All In 2023. But right before we do that, we just have one last thing to talk about. This tournament, of course, finished almost 2 weeks ago. A very controversial tournament for some people, as some people were not happy with how far Evil made it in the tournament. Some people thought New Japan Pro Wrestling completely flopped Block C by having Ishii and Shingo in Kingston, none of the three really making it, but rather choosing the two, faction leaders in Evil and David Finlay, who honestly neither guy has a lot of fans on the, American side for the New Japan fans. So there was that controversy. And then Block B, of course, Okada getting to the top. People were concerned that Okada was going to win it all again, get that 3 in a row. But thankfully, that didn't happen. Naito ended up winning the G1 Climax. And he did it by beating Tanahashi, then Hikuleo, then Ospreay, then Okada, all within a week's time to get him that win. So, despite all the controversial booking this year, what did you guys think about the G1 and most specifically who they chose to win the G1 in Tetsuya Naito, a 3-time G1 Climax winner.
Well, one thing I'm very excited because I'm happy that it was not Okada. I just felt like he had plot armor. Every time I watched him, I felt like he had armor on from New Japan armor, pretty much. That he was never going to lose. He was never going to have. He was always going to win a match. He's always going to win a title. But this really kind of surprised me, and I was happy too because I love Naito too. That was a great. And another thing, and so I love the Naito one. But number two, I'm okay with the whole G1 stuff. I'm a big fan of David Finlay and how he's acting. I kind of like his character. Evil, I like his character. I know he's not my favorite because of how he does his like wrestling wise. He doesn't wrestle. He cheats all the time, uses weapons and stuff. But it's just so fun to me. But I think it just kind of fits. I think it's just trying to move up people that people. But I think it was still fun. I liked G1 a lot. I loved the matches with Will Ospreay. We had a lot of great fun matches. Even Naito versus Will Ospreay, probably one of the best matches on G1. Probably one of the best matches of that year of the year. But it is a very okay. I'm perfect fine with it. I'm hoping that if this is good, that Naito will win against Sonata and become the new champion because that will be deserving for Naito. And I think that shows that Naito can still hang around with the big boys or the younger talent, with the big boys. I say. So I'm happy for it, and I'm happy for the change.
And same here. For once, it was somebody I was actually rooting for Naito. Well, unfortunately, it wasn't Will Ospreay. I originally wanted to win, but at least, like you said before, it wasn't Okada. And if I'm being quite honest, I still want Sonata to beat Naito. I don't think Sonata should just be lose just all of a sudden for Naito. I know Naito's a legend, but we gotta build up new stars. So I'm gonna be rooting for Sonata when that does happen. But it's awesome that Naito won because it's something refreshing for once for New Japan. So we'll take it. Even it's kind of predictable, but it's whatever.
Yeah, I get you. Now, I will say this. There are two stops before the Wrestle Kingdom 18 show. And there are two pay-per-views that actually just got announced earlier this week. And if I believe, I'm going to find it right now. And practically, Sonata has to defend his title, but Naito also has to defend his G1 Climax title shot. So the first pay-per-view, Destruction Kobe 2023. Naito has to fight a man who beat him in the tournament and a man who you could argue was screwed out of his block, Jeff Cobb. So who knows? Maybe Jeff Cobb can take that title shot, but we'll see. I think Naito keeps that title shot. Now, the main event of that night is Will Ospreay versus Yoda for the United Kingdom title. I think Ospreay retains. I think that would be the right call there. And that's nothing on Yoda, but I don't really see the reason to end it.
I think it'd be interesting. And I just saying off the bat, I do love Kota. I think that's his name. I always forget that much. But I love him. He's funny, and I kind of would like to see him actually win that title because I think winning that. I think Osprey held that title for a good while. With you holding that like twice so far. I think someone else should hold that title for now, and I think Kota sounds like a fun addition and kind of maybe boosts him up a bit to make him more a competitor in other people's eyes right now because he's so pretty young talent. So it'd be fun to see if that actually does happen. But maybe.
Mm, yeah, can't say
For me,
yeah, I'm a little still novice to the whole New Japan stuff, so that's why I'm a bit quiet, guys. Don't
I
mind me.
see. That's fair. We gotta get this dude locked into New Japan. But nah, for real though. I like Yoda a lot. It's nothing against Yoda. But Ospreay's the best wrestler in the world right now. I don't know if there really is a reason to end the reign. But if Yoda does win, I won't be mad at it. I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to give him a shot. And now, the second pay-per-view. It's called Destruction in Rengoku, or I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that shit. But no, so the two main matches advertised is Hiromu Takahashi defending against Leo Rush and Mike Bailey for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship in a rare triple threat scenario. But the main event, it's Sonata defending his title against the man he lost against, and that's Evil. So, who knows, man? Maybe Sonata versus Naito becomes Evil versus Naito, which I'm telling you right now, Evil versus Naito would absolutely stink up the Tokyo Dome. So I would definitely not recommend doing that match. Keep that belt on Sonata. Thank you.
Damn.
Yeah. Well, it's true. I said it before that Evil is all of his matches. He doesn't wrestle. He just takes advantage, nut shots, weapons, and it just does not. It's like a wrestling match that you see with Naito versus Okada or Naito versus Will Ospreay. It's just weapon match. It's pretty much more like a hardcore match for Evil.
Sorry to interrupt, but I gotta just say it because it's the honest fact. Evil was the worst Japanese wrestler, male or female, I've ever fucking seen. He is horrendous in that ring. Fucking horrendous.
Is he that fucking terrible?
No, he's terrible. He couldn't even have a good match with Okada or Sonata. He is dog shit.
Yeah, I kind of agree. In this year, yes, but I feel like to me,
sorry about that, guys. We are back, and now we are going to talk about the AEW All In 2023 predictions. So, the first All In happened 5 years ago in Chicago, Illinois, and we recently did a retro review of it last month, and that was in front of 10,000 people. Now, this one is reportedly going to be in front of 80,000. So, like I said, what is your thoughts on AEW reportedly breaking the all-time paid attendance record? That is if all those 80 plus thousand show up. And what are your thoughts on just the importance of this show? And final question to complete here, what are your thoughts on the overall card?
well, I say for number one question, I think it's a big step up for AEW that now after this whole thing, this is kind of like the biggest push to like Mount Everest, saying that now they are doing WrestleMania type of matches, like that big of a stadium, that's similar to WrestleMania. That's kind of how you would see that, showing that hey, we can compete with WWE now. Let's compete head to head, and that's what I think this is kind of what AEW is doing right now. So that's number one that I really like. That I'm happy to see that AEW is doing this, trying to compete more with the WWE side of things. Which is there's no shot that AEW is way better than WWE right now because of freaking McMahon crapping the place up right now. But the whole card, I'm really happy with some of these matches. There's some matches I'm not happy with, and then one other thing is way too many matches. I think it should have been just maybe 6 or 7 at the most, and it didn't need to have isn't that 11 matches or so. So it's just ridiculous how many. But I think the match, even though the matches look pretty good, I just not. I don't think there's too many matches still.
And honestly, I'm in the same boat too. Like, 9's way too much, but this is an AEW problem that's been going on since the very beginning. So as long as the 0 hour matches don't take up too much time, and one of the matches when we get into it, hopefully isn't too long. So we'll see. I think it's going to be a good show though.
It has been a reoccurring AEW thing. You know what the big issue is for this show?
Well,
and I don't think anybody's really talked about it too much. They kind of have to make this the best pay-per-view this year, but that's going to be a big problem when they produced both Revolution this year and Forbidden Door. I don't know how this show is going to top both those shows, but that's just me.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be hard too. Yeah, because I gotta say, Forbidden Door had so many fun matches, but if this wants to be exceeded, they just need to have banger after banger after banger after banger. Keep on and just all through the show, every match is a fire match. It cannot be zero. It can't be a 1-star match, 3-star match. No, it needs to be all five, like 4 to 4.5 star matches, all the way down the card. If that's what they want to try doing.
Hmm. Well, let's get on.
Yeah, it's going to take a shit ton of work, but yeah, I do agree. 11 matches is too many, but 2 of them were on the buy-in, the 0 hour. So let's talk about it. This is a regular match for the FTW Championship. Jack Perry defending against Hook. So the story has been how Jack Perry betrayed Hook out of frustration that he couldn't win either the AEW or IWGP heavyweight titles. Then he took Hook's title, which didn't matter all that much to him. He mocked ECW legends and beat RVD. And now Hook is back for revenge. So I think the obvious verdict is Hook. But I will say this. I think this heel turn for Jack Perry hasn't quite worked out just yet, but that doesn't mean it can't work out. So I still think we can give it time, and we'll see. My main issue is that this is just a regular match. Me personally, I think this needs hardcore rules based off what the story has called for. But that's just my opinion. I think these two could have a good match, maybe even a better than good match. But yeah, I have Hook winning here. Expectations? I'll go with the 7.
And for me, I am curious about this match. I do like the Jack Perry heel. He has worked out, in my opinion, for myself. I haven't felt like he is the most brutal heel like MJF kind of character, where he is a dickhead to everything. He's just more like just dishonorable, really. So, but I think it's still fun. I think he can grow if he gets more spotlight and not on 0 hour. If he was on the main show, maybe it would. And I say too that if it was on a main show, it would have probably had a stipulation. But now it's on the 0 hour. I doubt there's no stipulation. It kind of makes sense to me. But I feel like they probably gonna keep Jack Perry as that title champion just so I can keep on mocking Taz and Hook. So just to me, could mean and what they could do is if Jack Perry decides to go back with Christian, which is a possibility they have, they could do Christian with Jack Perry versus Hook and Taz, or like kind of like a that would be fun if they could do like a Christian with Jack Perry versus Hook and Taz. That'd be fun to see a tag match like that, if that's actually even possible. But yeah, for expectations, 7, maybe 7.5, I would say.
And same here. I know for a fact that Hook isn't gonna win just because for a 0 hour show, if they're gonna do like a title change, it seems kind of disrespectful for the FTW champion. Or yeah, but Jack Perry's gonna win. He's gonna end up cheating, or some shenanigans is gonna happen. I expect it to be at least a 7.
Now, I will say one harsh thing that I really appreciate about this card. So the 4 pillars, right? Sammy, he's off the show. Jack Perry is on the show, and Jack Perry's on the pre-show. But then you got only MJF and Darby on the main show, and that, in my opinion, is exactly what all 4 of them are worth.
Eesh.
It's brutal, but it's fairly true. But I think Sammy should have been. I think he's probably just going to appear during that Chris Jericho versus Will Ospreay match. I would say.
That's all it should be. He doesn't need to stink up All In.
Stinky.
I don't think he stinks up anything. I guess I still say Sammy's a very good, fun wrestler to watch. So I just say that. But even if it's interesting to hear that too.
All right. Now, let's talk about this next match. The 0 hour, which is ROH Tag Team Championship. Aussie Open, defending against Better Than You, baby. Now, this is AEW's way. of making people watch the 0 hour. Like usually with all the 0 hours, you could pretty much skip it and it won't really feel like the end of the world. But for this one, they're like, nah, we're putting major matches on this 0 hour. And they've succeeded in that. They have. They put 2 matches people are going to want to go out of their way for on the 0 hour. And this match could potentially be the New Day versus Usos of this card. And what do I mean by that? New Day versus Usos, SummerSlam 2017. They were put on the pre-show, but they had the second best match of the entire show. Don't be surprised if this match ends up being a very similar story. Now, the winners are quite obvious. Aussie Open. If it were up to me, though, I'd actually give it to Better Than You, baby. Whether a betrayal happens or not. Because you have an interesting story thread of those two somehow being tag champs. That's just my personal opinion. But yeah, if Aussie Open retains, I'm pretty fine with that. Aussie Open are one of the best tag teams in the entire world right now. And they deserve those titles. So yeah, expectation. I'm going to go 9 out of 10. Aussie Open to retain is my prediction. And do I think betrayal happens on the 0 hour? No. But I do think they might tease it. So we'll talk more about the main event when we get there, when it comes to Adam Cole and MJF.
Yeah. So this is it sounds like a fun match. The only thing is that it just feels like they're kind of pushing the idea of them being a tag team too. And the weird thing is that, well, in this match they're pretty much gonna be wrestling twice. And it's like you don't see that very often in any wrestling promotion where they're gonna fight in a tag team match. Then they're gonna have a main event match at the end of the show for the title. It's a little weird to me to kind of have that that whole match structure happen. So that is one. But it's even if the match sounds very fun, I do have a lot of. Sorry, I love the Aussie Open. They're great wrestlers. I love them a lot. How good they are in wrestling, and then Better Than You, baby. They're funny. They are very comedic to me. But if they be champions, I'm perfectly fine with that. I just weird being ROH type titles, but it's still fun. I think. Um, Betrayal, same thing as Danny. I don't think so. They're probably definitely going to tease a little bit of it. Probably the betrayal, if anything, will be happening at the main event. We will talk about later. But for me, I would give this expectations of a 9.
And same here. I'm honestly surprised it's even on the 0 hour. You could have just easily put one of the other matches on there because I mean I know they don't care about ROH, but at least attempt to. I know Aussie is going to retain though. There's no way. Either MJF is going to cost the victory or it's going to be Adam Cole that screws it up, and then it's going to get like real heated towards the main event. And I expect it to be like an 8.
I can see that. I think Adam will take the pin for sure because MJF took the pin in the FTR match. But yeah, now I will say one last thing. Now, we talked about who wins or loses, but that doesn't really matter. There's only one thing about this match that matters more than anything. Does MJF hit the kangaroo kick?
Oh.
Probably just to build up the hype of the match and probably win it. They're probably going to do the kangaroo kick and win the match with it.
Nah, man, he needs to hit it for the main event. That'd be like the biggest F you ever fight.
Dude,
That'd
I
be
will say
so
one
funny.
thing. I will say one thing, though.
Yeah.
MJF has not failed when he said he's going to do something so far. He said he was going to body slam Big Bill. He body slammed Big Bill. He said he was going to do a suicide dive. He did a suicide dive. He said he was going to kick one of the members of FTR in the balls. He kicked one of the members of FTR in the balls. Now, one of the boys in Aussie Open are going to have to get hit with that kangaroo kick. But now, I gotta say, I think the kangaroo kick might be the funniest thing he's tried to get over so far. But yeah, let's move on to the main show. 9 matches. Here's what gives me hope. Forbidden Door had 9 matches, and that's my favorite pay-per-view this year. So maybe this could, if they pace it right, maybe this could work out. But if you want to start off with a statement, let's start off with the Real World Championship match. CM Punk versus Samoa Joe, a rivalry that has spanned for almost 20 years. And this could likely be the last time they ever face each other. So they had the two iconic matches that went to a draw, and the trilogy ended in an iconic match where Samoa Joe got the W. They had a 2005 match, but that was more of a low-key match. It was like 20 minutes, less than 20 minutes, and Joe got the win. So Punk in the Owen Hart Cup semifinal this year, got a win over Joe. But it's not like he knocked out Joe. He just kind of outsmarted Joe and, got a clever pin over Joe. But he never beat Joe definitively. I was about to say decisively, but definitively also works. So Punk, he may be the real world champion because he lost the belt twice, but he never actually lost the belt twice. He had to relinquish it both times. Nobody has ever really beaten him for that world title. So Samoa Joe could be the first guy to do that. Or maybe Punk can finally have his night and definitively beat Samoa Joe. I will say, I would have had Joe win earlier this year in the Owen Hart Cup semifinal, so the story has more effect, and CM Punk's win mattered more. But yeah, that gives away the whole prediction. I think it's a very obvious prediction here. CM Punk gets the win, and he gets a definitive win. He hits a GTS and gets the 1, 2, 3. But me personally, I would have let Joe win the match earlier this year, but that's not a big deal. I understand why they did things the way they did it, because Punk also has the rivalry with Ricky. And I have a theory, by the way. I think, of course, you have two world titles. You have the AEW world title and the real world title. And in my opinion, you're going to have the AEW World Championship main event this show, because MJF and Adam Cole have the big story heading into this show. But next week's show, All Out, is in Chicago. I think it's very likely Punk gets the main event, and he has a built-in story already with Ricky Starks. They're 1-1. They have to settle the score, and that story hasn't really finished yet. Sure, they've kind of gone their separate ways the past few weeks after SummerSlam night, but there's still a bit of a rivalry there, and Punk said he wasn't finished with Ricky yet. So I think Punk versus Ricky happens next week. But as for this week, Punk gets through Joe first. What do I expect? A lot of people don't think this will be great, but I disagree. Because, sure, their iconic trilogy might have been almost 20 years ago, but I think these two can still pull out a great match. And as a matter of fact, y'all might think I'm tripping with the expectation. I don't care. I expect a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, this is gonna be a fun match. I really think all these old CM Punk versus CM Joe matches had a lot of fun when it was in ROH, and I think this match is going to have the exact same kind of impact for me. And I would like CM Punk to win. I just have a feeling Samoa Joe might do something to take that win too, but I don't think so. I say CM Punk is going to keep that title until CM Punk versus MJF or Adam Cole, whoever is a champion after this. That's what I would say. And I do expect this match. I would say I'm going to do an 8.5 out of 10 for me for an expectations.
Honestly, bro, it's either gonna get 8.5 or 9, depending how it ends. Because I know they've been really good about not doing the draw bullshit, and you better not do it for All In. You did this like 20 years ago. CM Punk already won 2 of these matches. Don't you do this to me on the
Oh, you're
biggest
talking
show.
about the.
Yeah,
I don't think that's happening.
good. It better not. But I think Samoa Joe's gonna win just because, like you mentioned, like Ricky's gonna somewhat interfere, maybe cost CM Punk the title, or I mean the real title, as he says. So expectations, I'll be fair, I'll be 8.5 to a 9.
Okay. So, next up, Darby Allin and Sting versus Swerve Strickland and Christian Cage, the man who will roast your dead father if you have one. So, all I gotta say is this. I think this is going to be a really fun match. AR Fox is having visa issues. Unfortunate. But if there is a guy to replace him with, Christian Cage is a great choice, especially with the story tied in with Darby right now. So, I think Darby and Sting get the win. Sting is undefeated in AEW, and Darby's undefeated in Coffin matches. So I doubt they lose in this scenario. And I don't know how much time Sting has left. I know his contract is wrapping up by the end of this year. So if this is one of his last matches, maybe even he just decides to retire on the spot at All In front of 80K people. Do not be surprised, folks. So Darby and Sting win, but the possibility of a retirement for Sting is in my mind. Expectations? 8 out of 10.
Yeah, this sounds very fun, and I can't wait to see it. With the whole, and it's a coffin match, which is interesting too. Is that technically Darby Allin has never lost a coffin match, and that's because that's his staple. His staple match is a coffin match. So this match should be very fun. I just hope there's no gimmicks, not like weird gimmick matches that maybe they take place somewhere else. Or I don't know if there would be something stupid like that. It should be in the arena if they do anything. And I hope that Sting is safe at most. If he wants to jump off something, do it, but safely. Like he's getting older by the day. Like it's gonna be very tough to do these high risk things for Sting. But I think this sounds like a very fun match. I am interested. I always love Coffin. Every Darby Allin Coffin match I really loved. So I will. For me, I want Darby Allin and Sting to win. And I put expectations. I'll give this an 8, 4 out of 10.
And same here. I feel like most of these matches are going to be 8s and up, so I'll keep it simple. Christian Cage, Strickland, definitely going to take this W. 8.5.
Now we move on to the Golden Elite. Kenny Omega, Hangman Adam Page, and Kota Ibushi versus Bullet Club Gold, Jay White, Juice Robinson, and Konosuke Takeshita. Now, there are rumors of Omega versus Takeshita happening at All In. At All Out, 1v1. So, a lot of people think Bullet Club Gold and Konosuke win here. Then Omega gets his revenge at All Out. You see, I'm thinking the other way around. I think the Elite win here, especially with Kota Ibushi on their team. And then the one-on-one, believe it or not, I think Takesha's going to beat Kenny Omega. And that's going to be their way of turning Takesha into a main event player in AEW. Because all Takesha really needs is that one big win. And I think that big win comes one-on-one against Omega. So I'm going to disagree with the crowd. I think the Golden Elite win here. And a lot of people are not happy that Kenny isn't booked in the one-on-one match for All In. And the fact that this is more of a New Japan match than an AEW match. And you know what I have to say to that? I agree. However, this is probably going to be a great match. So, does it really matter all that much? I mean, it does. Because this is like the WrestleMania of the year. It's like, imagine Bloodline versus Drew and RK Bro at WrestleMania instead of at Backlash. I understand where people are coming from with it. But I think these 6 guys are going to go out there and have an absolutely remarkable match. And who knows? They might have the better trios match because House of Black versus the Acclaimed, no offense to them, could be a good match, but this is obviously that car crash bar burner 6-man tag tonight. So yeah, I disagree with the crowd. My expectation, 8 out of 10. I picked the Golden Elite to win.
Now, I think this would be a very fun match to see. And question, we said this in the Blood and Guts, but is Kota Ibushi going to be in AEW, or is just good? This is like a second time thing, and Danny's gone.
I think they got this man on the Brock Lesnar sort of deal, low key. That's just me on my conspiracy theory shit, but it wouldn't surprise me if they just had him on a part-time contract.
Well, it'll be cool. I just questioned that because so far we thought it was just one-time deal, but right now it seems like he might be in the back pocket of AEW right now for a little while.
Yeah, I
So
thought the same.
yeah. So for this match in general, I think this match has a lot of great things happening. My boy Jay White finally in the main show, so I'm happy to see that. It seems so far every match looks great. This one's another one, and I can't wait to see it. I'm gonna go for the Bullet Club Gold. I want them to win, and because I think it'll be fun, and I think Takeshita might do something and make the Kenny Omega versus Takeshita at the next pay per view happen there. So I think that'll be so much fun. So Bullet Club Gold for me to win. I'll take I 8.5.
No,
No.
I'm not trying to be favoritism or anything, but call me crazy. But this match is literally going to be perfection, and you can't tell me otherwise. Sure, Kota Ibushi wasn't. He was ring rusted, but it's time. He's going to pull all the guns out. We're going to have the Golden Elite versus the Bullet Club. I expect a goddamn 10, and I will not take anything less than a 10. And I want the Golden Elite to win, and all my guys need to come back from losing too much. They've been put over other guys for far too long. It's been a year of this shit. Now it's time to put them back on God tier. Thank you.
All right. Now we get into AEW Women's Championship Fatal 4-Way. Hikaru Shida, Toni Storm, Saraya, Britt Baker. Now let's go through everybody. Shida. Now, some people might be pissed off at what I have to say, but I think if you're logical, you won't be mad. Hikaru Shida is just a transitional champion. She won the belt during the pandemic, and she was the champ for an entire year. Longest reign women's champ in the company's history. And it doesn't really feel like she's the longest reigning because, again, all of it happened in front of little to no fans. So I think what AEW did here is they threw Hikaru Shida a bone by letting her go from a champion in front of 0 people to a champion in front of 80,000 people. So she gets that bone, but she doesn't win. I think she loses to one of these 3 here. Who? Well, let's go through the rest of the list. Toni Storm. Toni Storm, she is a 2-time champion. She had her interim reign, which then turned into an official reign after she lost it to Jamie Hayter. And then she won the belt at Double or Nothing earlier this year, and that was her way of officially winning the title. But if you go through the official record books, even though you could argue that she only won the belt once, she won it twice. So, since she just got the belt and lost it, I doubt she gets the belt back here. Now, Britt Baker. Someone who's under a lot of fire recently. And call me an asshole, it's warranted. The heat is warranted. She kind of asks for some of the heat that she receives. And that's just really all I'm going to leave it at. And due to the heat, she also has, from what I've done research on, a bad back, which is why her matches recently have been worse than ever. So I think she wanted to compete on All In, get the experience of working AEW's WrestleMania, at least get that done before going away for a period of time, and probably not wrestling and being involved in the MJF and Adam Cole story while not wrestling, if anything. So now we're down to one person, Saraya. She's in front of the UK, her home country, potentially her family, her friends, and she came to the company almost a year ago. Now, again, I said don't get pissed off. This is being logical. Saraya wins the title here. And I'm not saying she is going to. Well, she is going to, that's for sure. But she also should win that title. We got to appreciate the legends while we have them around. And I know that Saraya is someone who is similar to Edge and Bryan. It was never expected of her to come back, but she did. She deserves that big moment in front of her family and friends and 80K people. She deserves one last title reign. And if you guys don't like the facts, I am very sorry to tell you about everything that will be happening this Sunday. Not just because it should happen, but because it has to. Every woman in this match has held that belt except for Saraya. So the expectation, I don't expect anything too crazy. Maybe they could pull something decent here. I'm going to give it a 6. But there's only one logical prediction here, and there's only one winner here. And that's Saraya.
Yeah, it's hard to see that this match is going to be good because I gotta say the 2 out of 4 I dislike really badly. I just don't like them whatsoever. The other 2 I really am a big fan of. So it's hard because I hate 2 of them, but I love the other 2. So it's funny. So, but I say that I want Saraya to win. I think that would be a great thing to see her take that title and hold it in front of her family, her friends and family. So for me, that's the only thing I'm going to say is that Saraya is going to win. I hope or Toni, but I really Saraya 100%. And for expectations, I'm going to try give this a benefit of the doubt. So I'm going to give it a 7.5 expectation wise.
And I'll be the same. You know what? I think these women can deliver. It's just like if they fully commit to it, because I don't have much faith in Britt Baker whatsoever. But I know at least with Shida, Toni, and Saraya, it's not going to be bad. It's going to be fairly decent. So 7.5 with me.
And for all the people pissed off at the idea of Saraya winning the title, think about this. Think about Saraya holding the belt and losing it to a returning Jamie Hayter, because who took Jamie Hayter out? The Outcast. So Jamie Hayter getting her revenge on the Outcast and taking that title back. That sounds like the best way to go for me.
Makes sense to me.
Now, we move on to Stadium Stampede, which is, to keep in mind, kind of a promotional match because the Stadium Stampede mode is coming out for AEW Fight Forever this week, which, if you guys didn't know, the player base, or the average players on per minute, is now over 90% lower than it was at launch. And the game only came out 2 months ago. I don't want to shit on a game that's already been just absolutely buried to death, but I don't know what the fuck AEW were thinking by releasing this joint. That's just all I have to leave at
Don't
that.
fucking
Like,
remind me.
fact that they even had the audacity to think they could compare or compete to a 2K game. Gee, oh my god. Let's just move on. Stadium Stampede 3. 5v5. Team Blackpool Combat Club. Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, who was the ROH champion, Wheeler Yuta, and the returning Santana and Ortiz. Oh, I'm so excited for that. And then Team Eddie. Eddie Kingston, Pentagon, Orange Cassidy, and Best Friends. This should be bonkers. And I know my two co-hosts here, they don't really like the Stadium Stampede stipulation all that much. But there's one thing to keep in mind here. This isn't an actual Stadium Stampede. And if you're questioning, what do you mean? Here's what I mean. This is in Wembley Stadium. This is basically Anarchy in the Arena 3, more than a Stadium Stampede 3. Because it's just going to be an all-out 5v5 tornado street fight. That's exactly what this is. And here's the thing. Eddie's story has kind of been fumbled over and over again, in my personal opinion. Similar to the Bloodline. And sure, it might not be as detrimental as the Bloodline stuff has been, but let me explain this. I've been very pissed off with Eddie Kingston's story because of this. Eddie Kingston's story, going back to the beginning, has been about how he can never get that big win. You know, he lost against Mox, he lost against Bryan, he lost against Punk. All that's fine and dandy. Then he gets to Revolution 2022. He beat Jericho, which, okay, that's his first pay-per-view win, but it's not really a big one or the big one. We lead into Double or Nothing, Anarchy in the Arena, Blackpool Combat Club versus JAS, which is, in my opinion, the best match of 2022. Kingston lost, though. So it's like, okay, Jericho and Kingston, they're going to have that, other match, that final match, which sadly was not good at all. And Eddie lost, fumbling the overall story against Jericho. And then we move on to earlier this year, ROH Championship. Still one of the biggest decisions I disagree with. Claudio retaining over Eddie Kingston. So they fumbled Eddie Kingston's story multiple times. So I am very concerned they're going to have him lose again, which I'm telling people now shouldn't happen at all. Eddie should win this match. And if you're not going to have him win this match, you better have him beat Jon Moxley at All Out. Because I am done waiting for Eddie's moment. It needs to happen sooner or later. Because Eddie has deserved it. Whether he takes the AEW title or the ROH title, he needs to take one or the other. If Adam Cole isn't the guy to do it, it's got to be Eddie Kingston. And why? Because he's earned this moment. So I'm going to predict Team Blackpool Combat Club, hoping Eddie at least gets a big moment at All Out. But they got to do his story right, man, because I know, like, a lot of people haven't been complaining about it, but this story really has started to piss me off, and I think they're really delaying this big win for Eddie, similar to how WWE is delaying Roman's loss for the title. I think it's the same exact thing. If not, AEW has it even worse with Eddie here.
Yeah, so for me, this sounds like a very fun match. I'm interested. I did like the first Stampede match. The second one, not really, but the third sounds so much fun because they're in a stadium, so it's more just like a Anarchy in an Arena, pretty much. It's just in a bigger state, it's just in a stadium, pretty much. But this sounds very fun. It doesn't sound bad. It actually has a lot of great moments. And another thing too is that I do feel the same about Eddie. I feel like he should have a lot more into Eddie. Saying that he is, I think he still is the New Japan Strong champion. Still, I think he is. I can't remember, but he did win that title against Kenta. So that technically kind of shows that at least as a New Japan helped. It gave him a title, but I'm just hoping that he gets more spotlight in the AEW, winning another title here, another title. And I would probably say Team BCC will win. Will win this, and I predict a 8.5.
Yeah. He did win the title against Kenta in that 1 month, but I gotta say it, man. That 1 month of Eddie going to New Japan, like, if AEW keep fumbling this, they're just gonna make me want Eddie going to New Japan and leave AEW. That's just all they're gonna make me want out of it.
True.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, at least it's not the typical stadium stampede. I just didn't like it before, Danny, because they're just so goofy and kind of dumb. But if it's like Anarchy in the Arena, I'm sure it's gonna be good. So, Team BCC for the win.
All right. Now, AEW Trios Championship match. The House of Black versus the Acclaimed. Now, I actually think there isn't really a bad match on this card. I am worried some of these matches could be bad. This is one of those matches. Because let's be real, as great as the House of Black are, it's not like you're going to get guaranteed 5-star matches with the Acclaimed. And I explained this before the podcast, and it should be explained after. So, honestly, the Acclaimed, when they won the tag titles last year, they won it because they were super over. But if it were up to me, I don't think they should have ever won the tag team titles. If anything, them winning the tag team titles just delayed FTR winning it. And FTR should have been the ones to win it in late 2022. Because by the time we get to April 2023 and FTR did win it, it felt like a long wait. I would have rather cut that wait, forget about the Acclaim, forget about the Guns, and have gone straight to FTR. But that's just me. We can't rewrite the past, but we can control the present. So we kind of took momentum away from Swerve and Their Glory for it. Now for House of Black. They're the best trios champions this company has ever had. From their match with the Elite, to their match with CMFTR, to just them having the presences of champions. Having the little side feud with Andrade. Like, House of Black have been great with those titles. And this is no offense to the Acclaim. I don't think the Acclaim have any business beating House of Black for those titles. And they had a good match when I went live at Double or Nothing. But I don't expect this to be, like a bar burn or anything fantastic. It could be due to the story that's been implemented into here. But, yeah, I think House of Black should retain. I know they've held it for 5 months, but it's not long enough. I think they should hold it for longer. And expectation, I'll go 6 out of 10. I think this could be decent. So, prediction, House of Black. I'm hoping they do the right thing and just let House of Black get the W.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything else than one that I want the House of Black to win. That's number one. Number two, I would like to see maybe a betrayal by Billy Gunn, so he can join up with the Bullet Club of Gold people. That's my main one right there. And for expectations, I will give it a 8, and I want House of Black to win.
And same here. If as long as the Acclaim doesn't retain, because let's be honest, Daddy Badass, or whatever the fuck he calls himself now, is gonna join Team Gold. So 8, but this match did not need to be on this pay-per-view. Let's be real, they could have done this tomorrow on Collision, but whatever.
Yeah, I feel a similar way. I don't feel like this match needed to be on the card. If anything, this could have been thrown in the buy-in. But it's all right. I do want House of Black on the show. They deserve to be. So it is what it is. But now, we move on to the AEW Tag Team Championship match. FTR versus the Young Bucks. Now, we haven't talked about the situation Cash Wheeler is going through at the moment, and we are not going to talk about it because we don't even have that much information out. Like, there are a lot of people just assuming that Cash was in the wrong or the other people in the encounter were in the wrong, and we don't know. We genuinely don't know. So I feel like we need to give it time before we even discuss that. But he is in a situation, that is for sure. So any chance they had of retaining before, I think, is completely gone now. And like how I predicted the Golden Elite to win earlier, I think the Young Bucks also get the win here. I think you have all the Elite basically get huge wins here because, they're going to pull it's not all Elite wrestling without the Elite. So they're going to have all 5 members of the Elite get them W's. And expectations, 8 out of 10, because I will be honest, I think these guys have had good matches, pretty good matches. The first match in particular was really damn good. But I don't think they've made masterpieces like everyone else thinks. I don't think the chemistry is as crazy as other people think it is or put it out to be. But that's my personal take. Maybe they surprise me and do make a masterpiece out of this. But I'm just expecting a pretty good tag match. So expectation, 8 out of 10. Young Bucks become the new tag team champions.
Yeah, and for me, two things. One, I want FTR to win. I don't think Young Bucks should be champions. Danny and me don't want it to happen. Chris, I have to say yes, he would want that to happen, but we don't. Me and Danny don't want that to happen. FTR is the best champions, AEW champions of all time, and I think they should keep those titles. This should be a very fun match too. But I want FTR to win. I would give this an 8.5 for expectations.
In same boat. I do want the Young Bucks to win, but you know how I am what they are. So expectations, I'll give it a 9. They're gonna deliver as always.
All right. So, you're actually picking FTR to retain.
Maybe, I don't know. I haven't heard much of the news. It depends, like what Toni decides to do. But if FTR does win, I won't be mad. But we'll see.
Here's just my whole thing about it. You know how all the elite just signed brand new contracts?
Yeah.
It's very hard for me to believe that the Young Bucks didn't ask for a tag title reign along with that.
They probably did.
There's no way they didn't ask for those tag titles when re-signing. There's no way.
So we'll see what happens. But on to the next one.
Here is one thing I am a bit concerned about right now. You know how there's the whole CM Punk and Elite beef backstage?
Yeah.
I feel like Young Bucks, if they end up winning and technically politicking their ways back to the top, I think that's going to cause more issues there involving Punk and the Elite. So let's hope it doesn't go that way.
I hope. Dude, don't even say that. We don't need them to fight again. Everyone's chill. Everyone's calm.
But I'm saying I could see the Young Bucks screwing FTR enough to the point where it pisses Punk off. I can see it happening.
Listen,
because
man,
last year,
Cash Wheeler for doing that
last
shit.
year. Here, let me actually say this. Remember when last year Swerve and Our Glory beat the Young Bucks for the tag titles?
Yeah.
That wasn't supposed to happen. That match was supposed to be Young Bucks versus FTR 3, with FTR winning. But they refused to put FTR over because they believe FTR were going to go to WWE, which they re-signed contracts this year, so Young Bucks were proven wrong. So, here's the thing. Now with Young Bucks re-signing new contracts, it's like the perfect time for them to be FTR and win the trilogy. I just think it's very scummy how they escaped this match, or ducked this match, I should say, for over a straight year just because they didn't want to put over FTR. And I think that makes them look more scummy and slimy than anything else out of all this.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I hope that does not happen. Is just don't put anything in the world that actually has a possibility to happen in real life. But just say that this is going to go over, and FTR is going to win, and it is just going to be as like regular business. I would say.
I agree, and I hope that ends up being the case. I just do not trust these two Bucks. I never will.
Never will.
And I think I have every right to not trust them after all the years. So that's just me. I'm sorry, guys, that I just completely kind of just shat on Young Bucks there with this match prediction. But I am kind of bitter about this happening. I can't deny it. Because it just feels like the Young Bucks waited till the right time to win the trilogy. And I just think that's an absolute bitch move. I think that's a big bitch move. It's hard for me to not view it as a bitch move.
Yeah.
Well, it's agree. We both, I say, it's definitely agreeable.
So, now let's move on to the non-title match. Remember the first All In, there was a non-title match. Kenny Omega didn't put his belt on the line against Pentagon. Well, this time, Will Ospreay isn't putting his belt on the line against Chris Jericho. But you know what's even more wild about this? The day before, Will Ospreay's facing one of his biggest rivals in the history of his career, Shingo Takagi, at Rev Pro. Again, it's airing tomorrow, Saturday night, the day before All In. This maniac is working Shingo Takagi and then Chris Jericho the next day. That is insane. So
that's dedication.
Yeah, and I think Will Ospreay is gonna win both matches. Bit of a spoiler, but yeah, I think he wins both matches because let's be honest here, he beat Omega, he beat Okada. I think Jericho beating Ospreay right now would just be silly. That would just be stupid. And I don't even mean to be harsh about that. I know Jericho is a legend, but he's 53 years old, so I definitely have my reservations and doubts about this match. But who knows? It's Will Ospreay at the end of the day. He's the best wrestler in the entire world. And if anybody can get a banger out of 2023 Chris Jericho or get close to that, it's going to be Will Ospreay. So, expectation 7 out of 10.
Yeah, this should be a fun match. I think has a lot of anticipation, and I just hope that this is the Chris Jericho from like old days where he's going to be competitive and not very slow. A very slow wrestler. I'm hoping that this is a very, very fast-paced match, very good. It's I can't wait to see this because I would love to see it, and it's interesting to see how Will Ospreay is just dedicated in wrestling matches day after day. So it's big. So I would give this a rating, expected rating of an 8.5. This sounds very fun, and it could be a very great match too. So I want Will Ospreay to win too.
Same here, dude. Because either with Chris Jericho, it's like clearly hit or miss. It's either going to be a 5 or it's going to be 8. But hopefully, it's at least the latter, with 6.5. But we'll see what Chris Jericho does. Hopefully, he brings it to the table. Because if not, that's not on Will Ospreay. That's on Jericho. He should just fucking retire at this point. Like, go away.
You know something, man?
Suck.
I think if this match happened at least 3 years ago, this could have been an absolute classic.
It would have been, but well, again, we'll see what Jericho does. Because every time I give him a chance, he always fucks it up. And I'm still mad about that Daniel Bryanson fight he had.
At All Out last year?
I'm still pissed off about that.
No, that should have been an amazing match. Yeah, that should have been.
But whatever. I'll just be 6.5 then.
Shit. Now the main event. Man, this is not going to be easy. MJF versus Adam Cole for the AEW Championship. Now the obvious is MJF betraying Adam Cole, and either he does it on his own or he does it with the help of Roderick Strong, the Kingdom, maybe even a returning Kyle O'Reilly. That's the obvious. But to tell you guys a bit of a weird truth, I don't want MJF to be a heel anymore. I think with all the work that's happened this summer, I remember heading into Double or Nothing, I wanted him to lose the title to Darby. And if that happened, we would have never gotten this. So shit, big mistake on my end. But it showed how I felt about how I feel in 2023 about heel MJF compared to face MJF. Heel MJF, I'm kind of good with him losing the title and feel like he isn't doing too much for the belt. But with this storyline, him becoming a face, it's turned it all around. And honestly, it's made me realize the problem isn't MJF. The problem is I'm bored of him as a heel. And why am I bored of him as a heel? Because he's betrayed so many people already. He's done all the scummy things you could possibly think of. Any wrong or evil thing left to do, you can see MJF doing it. And due to that, it feels like he's become a bit one-dimensional and predictable as a heel. And I'm hoping AEW and MJF have realized that his heel run has finally gotten stale. And I know there might be many out there that disagree heavy with me. but this is genuinely how I feel. I think heel MJF at this point in time needs a break. It has become stale. And I know that's MJF we all came to know, we all came to love, but he's ready to be a babyface, man. It's time. He should be one. He has all the tools in the making to be one. And he's proved that through this story. He can be a good babyface, even a great babyface. So, AEW, if the obvious happens, I'm not going to be happy. And I'm going to use my hope. I don't think the obvious happens. I think they go with the curveball. Adam Cole is the one to do the turn. And he becomes the new AEW champion. So, him versus Punk would clearly be what's down the road. And we could do MJF versus Punk 3 eventually. But maybe it's better to make people really want it. Maybe it's better to make people starve for it. Because right now, people aren't starving for Punk versus MJF 3. They aren't yet. But they can. We can return to the dog collar point. But that's going to be clearly for a later date. I think Adam Cole wins this belt and finally puts an end to the MJF we all once knew. And we finally have a chance to see what a babyface MJF could be. Expectation, 9 out of 10. But if it's a 10...
Yeah, this is interesting, and it's a weird development between MJF and Adam Cole, but I'm very happy, and I'm hoping this is the best match of the night and a deserving main event. I see what you're getting at, Danny, but I'm hoping that Adam Cole wins. I think people want Adam Cole just to win because I think it's funner to see Adam Cole be a guy who everyone Danny?
Sorry. I think the mic accidentally cut me off, but I did say, even though MJF becomes a babyface, Adam Cole's the one who does the betrayal and wins the title.
Sorry, I did cut out. If that's the case, I'm happy with that. I think if MJF it's going to be weird because everyone knows him as this heel character. Everyone knows him as a dickhead, is a jerk. So if this is kind of like a role reverse, it sounds fun. And I'm still saying Adam Cole sounds like a very fun champion. And I think everyone is going to be happy with the champion like him too. So Adam Cole to win, and I'm going to expect a 9 to a 9.5 expectations wise.
And same here. If I'm just gonna be sad with the friendship is over between these two because that's been like the best part of AEW for like the past month or so.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and Chris, to ask you one question, I'm kind of out here with the hot take that MJF is getting stale as a heel in 2023. Do you agree with me?
I don't, but I do like his face turn because he's not officially a face. He's still the same old stuff. He's just more doing, I guess, more good guy stuff. So he's more of I would say more of like a Deadpool kind of person. He's just kind of neutral on both sides. So I think that's a better fitting for him, and it'd be funny to see because the dude's got talent. I like him as a heel. I'll see what he has a face outside of this friendship, and hopefully it's good. And that's all I'm gonna leave it at.
All right, sweet. So that's the whole show. I expect a 7.5 to an 8. I think this will be a damn good show.
For me, I give it a 8. Oh no, 7 to the 8 for me. Expectations.
And same here, 7 to an 8. Let's hopefully it's an 8 then.
I'm hoping it's a 10, but I don't think we're getting a 10. I'm going to be very realistic here.
8.5.
I think they can pull off a 9 at max. Well, but we'll have to see. It'll be an interesting day on Sunday. And yeah, I think history's about to be made, no matter what the results are. So, thank you all so much for watching this long podcast. If you stuck all the way through, we really appreciate it. Please like, please subscribe. all that good stuff. I've been Daniel,
I've been Berman.
And I've been Chris.
and we'll see you all next week for the AEW All In London review. Take it easy.